Prosecutors in Idaho say a secret grand jury has indicted the suspect in the murder of 4 University of Idaho students. The Latah County District Court clerk tells ABC News the grand jury returned a multi-count indictment against Brian Kohberger, including 4 counts of first-degree murder. He's accused of stabbing 4 University of Idaho students to death in an off-campus home. ABC's Kana Whitworth has been tracking this story for us. She joins me now, along with ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer, for more. Kana, how significant is this indictment?
Well, look, Diane, it's huge. This is really the first step in the legal process, and this grand jury indictment now forgoes the preliminary hearing that we all had marked on our calendars for the end of June. So we heard this morning from the Latah County District County Clerk, again confirming that a grand jury in Moscow, Idaho, has returned a multi-count indictment against Brian Kohberger, and that includes murder in the first degree, of which he was facing 4 counts. You also have to remember he was facing that felony burglary count as well for entering a home, breaking into a home with the intent to commit murder. So what happens with this grand jury is that the jurors don't actually determine guilt here, right? They just are determining the probable cause to see if this will go to trial. So when he enters his plea, if that plea is not guilty, then a trial date will be set. And it's also important to keep in mind here that with this grand jury, it doesn't have to be a unanimous decision. And you have to think about the prosecution making this decision here. When this happens, it means that the prosecutor, their entire team is in there with just the judge and the grand jury and their witnesses. And we know how delicate the witnesses could be in this case when we're talking about these 2 surviving roommates, one of them who had been recently subpoenaed by the defense, but also the surviving roommate who we read about in this probable cause affidavit, who claims she saw a man dressed clad in black, remember, with a mask covering nose and mouth, and she made out those bushy eyebrows, which is what eventually authorities say led them to Brian Kohberger. So again, Diane, this is huge, but it is the first step in this court case.
Brian, why go through a grand jury in a case like this?
Yeah, so Diane, the prosecution has to prove to the court, or more specifically the judge, that there's probable cause. And so you can either do it through a grand jury or in a preliminary hearing. And that's the initial step of moving a case towards an ultimate goal, either a plea or, more likely in this case, a trial. Here, the grand jury is not deciding guilt or innocence, as we heard earlier, and they're not deciding guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, as we know typically happens in a trial. Instead, they're deciding whether it's a 51% chance, or more likely than not, or the legal term being preponderance of the evidence, that Brian Kohberger in fact committed these crimes, and that's what they seem to have decided. The prosecution decided to go with a grand jury rather than preliminary hearing, probably because that limits the amount of exposure information going to the defense, but also the public. And this allows the prosecution to marshal the evidence without the defense cross-examining any witnesses.
Kana, what happens with this case from here?
So what we're hearing right now is that he will be arraigned officially on Monday morning in Latah County at 9 a.m. in this courthouse. He'll have to make an in-person appearance. At this point, he will enter a plea. In all likelihood, people expect that plea to be not guilty. You have to remember that back when he was arrested in Pennsylvania, he immediately waived his right to extradition. He said he quickly wanted to return to Idaho so that he could quickly be exonerated. So that is the first step, and then there will be a trial set after that, Diane.
All right, Kana Whitworth, Brian Buckmeyer, thank you both.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.